I'm Lori Kleinerman. I'm Director of Marketing and Public Relations for Goodman Theatre. And thank you. I'm really thrilled to be here among all of these esteemed professionals and to talk about something that is very close to my heart, A Christmas Carol and revenue generation. So I do have to ask, who's been to A Christmas Carol? Who's been more than once? Do you remember what you paid? Good. Okay. That's what I want to know. So even though Christmas Carol is about Scrooge's redemption from being a miser to a generous man, no play is more perfect to talk turkey about the value of the shilling or the dollar. And I'd like to give you some background about A Christmas Carol, but as a note, I really want to underscore the fact that as part of a regional theater, we are mission-based, and part of our mission is to take artistic risks, which can mean financial risks. In fact, this current season, 5 out of our 8 plays are premieres or world premieres, which means that these plays are untested. So while they're assigned a revenue goal, you really have no idea how they're going to be received by the public. So, in fact, it is taking a huge risk. And A Christmas Carol is the one production that we really do that we can count on to produce consistent revenue. It's about 12% of our operating budget, and that's really important because we know we can take these risks going forward. So by way of background, Christmas Carol has been doing well. Over the past 5 years, our average capacity has been approximately 90%, and our price and yield have been good and continue to climb. But despite strong performance, we suspected there was more we could do to increase sales. And again, because this is such an essential program for us, we had to look and see if there was any money left on the table. So to explain our journey to pricing redemption, it made sense to look at the past, the present, and the future of this 33-year-old. Some call it a chestnut, some consider it an annuity. Janet probably would consider it an annuity. So I've divided up this presentation into 3 parts, each represented by Dickens' beloved ghosts: the ghost of Christmas past, the ghost of Christmas present, which is this past performance that we did in 2010, and the ghost of Christmas future, the daunting ghost. So, to talk about the past, we actually were doing variable pricing based on historical demand. We do about 54 performances a season, give or take, and we did have a lot of data that we used that let us know which were the most popular performances. So we priced accordingly. And you've heard a lot of this before, so I don't need to go into a lot of detail. But weekends in December and the week before Christmas always sold out. And so we could price those the highest. Then we would have previews in November, some midweek performances, things that happened after Christmas, student groups, and we needed to price those lower. We also had 2 pricing zones, A and B. Our house, it's called the Albert Theater. It's about 850 or so seats. A is about 2/3 and B is about 1/3 of the house. And we did have special discounts for, we call them problem performances, but they're the day before Thanksgiving, let's say, or again after Christmas. Group sales, student groups, and then again, accessibility objectives. As a not-for-profit, it was really important. So if we had, at this point, a $76 ticket for our most highly sought-after performances, we needed to have an accessible ticket. And so we had $25 Sundays in A and also in B. And this is just a quick look. I promise you not too many charts in this presentation, because I know it's the middle of the afternoon. But red was hot. Red was where people wanted to go. That's how we priced. We priced that the highest. And then up in the beginning of November, when we started off, those were priced lower, and so on and so forth. So on to the present. The big change for us was that we put a toe in the water and tried demand-based pricing. And we did it because we needed to do it. We needed to see if we could really maximize revenue. We tried it late. We tried it actually 2 weeks into the run, but we came up with a strategy. Ticket prices had the potential to increase by $10 in A and $5 in B. We made that decision because we thought people who bought tickets in B were more price sensitive. And so, you know, it wasn't a huge windfall for us, but we made some incremental income. We saw that there was opportunity there, and the positive outcome motivated us to contact the Pricing Institute. This is what they told us. Most of the 2010 run came close to selling out, but price increases were too little and too late to have a substantial impact on yield. So obviously that's informing what we're doing differently. Okay, this is the chart. And you don't really have to look at it, but and the Pricing Institute did this chart. So the dark yellow line, pretend you can see it. You can see it, it's sort of a ochre color. That was the starting price. The light yellow line is the average, and basically what this shows you is that there was the biggest differential between start and end during the more popular performances. And we just love having this data. It's fun. So on to the future. Like Scrooge, we were a little concerned about change as we've been doing this play for 33 years, and it was tried and true. And again, I want to underscore the importance of accessibility, especially with Christmas Carol, which is a family program. We are aware of our civic responsibilities as a not-for-profit institution, so it's important that we are accessible while still optimizing our income. And I will note, before I jump into it, that there are lots of things that we still continue to do despite being baptized by the Pricing Institute, such as $25 seats still remain. We have a community night at the end of the run where we give away every seat in the house, and we still do a lot of accessible pricing. So the future, on the opportunistic side, we had to move more quickly. So this coming year, we're going to implement revenue management and demand-based pricing earlier with fewer, bigger jumps. What we did last time, I mentioned the $10 and $5 potential increases. What we did is we sort of bumped things up by $2 based on capacity. So at 75%, increase $2 or $1 in B. This year we're going to do it differently. We'll be using different reports. We'll be using more velocity reports and T-stats, and we'll be measuring things in a different way. We're going to rescale the house, so we're going to have a third section. For years and years, we've had two sections in our Albert house. It's been A and B. So now we're going to have an AA, which is a premium section. And actually, we're not limiting it to Christmas Carol. We're going to implement that for the rest of the season. We've talked a lot about adjusting prices to optimize revenue, so we're going to be doing that. We're minimizing some of the gaps between A and B seats because we saw that they were huge, and based on where the seats are in proximity to each other, it sort of didn't make sense. And we're also lowering some prices because in some cases that's what was warranted. And then this is the really crazy thing. We've created two different house configurations where the ratio of AA seats to A seats is actually larger. So where we have the most demand, we're going to have the most AA seats to sell. So we anticipate an increased revenue of about 5 to 8%. We're trying to be conservative, and we hope we get there. So this is a cool chart that the Pricing Institute did for us. And while we had always done this variable pricing, they took 5 years of data and put it into this really fabulous chart for us and allowed us to look at where we sold the most tickets and the fewest tickets. So up in the upper right-hand corner, it's high capacity, high yield. In the lower right, it's low capacity, low yield. And then there's pricing somewhere in the middle. So we were actually looking at 5 years of data, capacity, yield, and that was able to inform our pricing going forward. They put together, represents a calendar for us, and so the color coding ties into where things ended up in terms of capacity and yield. So this informed what we ended up doing with pricing for next year. And then this is the hot seats chart that some of you know about. We love it, it's so cool. And it shows you how many times these seats were sold and how many times they turned around. And what is so interesting about it is it allowed us, of course, to rescale the house, but it also allowed us to see, let's say, right over here in the center, there's green seats and blue seats. And there shouldn't be green seats and blue seats because those have not turned over as many times as the red and orange seats. So it led us to question why. And as it turns out, those seats are house seats and development seats, and they're being given away to people. And sometimes they don't even use them. So when I talked earlier about institutional change, that's what I'm talking about. So we really need to work more as an institution in order to maximize revenue opportunities. So as we look to the future, we acknowledge what we have learned from the past and the present. They have taught us important lessons. Thanks to variable and demand-based pricing and some excellent counsel from the Pricing Institute, Goodman Theatre and Scrooge both have life-changing transformations.